Okay, just to get started with, we are recording the meeting. The meeting will be put on our YouTube channel, and everybody registered will get a direct link to that channel with this meeting as well. And if we have any questions or just any comments, if you could please put them in the chat. We have 2 people monitoring the chat, so we'll make sure that they get answered and whatnot is okay. All right, so I guess we can call the meeting to order as of 10:05, June 1st. And just to get started, sorry, I just have papers absolutely everywhere today. While we're holding the AGM virtually, we are hopefully going to be able to hold a hybrid type AGM in the future. It takes a lot more planning than, doing it virtually, but I think everybody would really benefit from being able to get together in person like we did back in 2021. And thanks for everybody for joining us today. We're anticipating that this meeting will be approximately 2 hours, with the first part being focused on information, education, and just kind of in presentations. We're really fortunate today to have Dr. Andrea Sereda give a presentation and keynote address. Pretty excited about that. And then the second half of the meeting will be more business focused, dealing with the financial reports, etc. And I'm not sure, Tyler, was Susie able to join us today? I don't see her.
I don't see her either, unfortunately, so she must
Unfortunately.
not be able to. And I've just dropped the copy of the agenda again in the chat for everybody.
Okay. I'm messaging with her and she is coming on right away.
Oh, is she? Okay. All right, so we'll start with, so before we get started, it's important for Mom Stop the Harm to recognize the lands where we reside and work as an expression of our gratitude and appreciation to those whose territories we inhabit, and as a way of honoring the Indigenous peoples who have been living and stewarding these lands from time immemorial. Please feel free to share in the chat your own acknowledgement of the lands in which you call home. Well, Manitoba Director Tammy Talley opens with our official acknowledgement.
All right, welcome everyone. Can you hear me? Yeah, good. Okay. So in addition to our board member acknowledgement of their local lands and peoples, Mom Stop the Harm would like to acknowledge the Indigenous peoples of all the lands that we are on today. While we meet today on a virtual platform, let us take a moment to acknowledge the importance of the lands which we each call home. We reaffirm our commitment and responsibility to care for the lands and to strengthen relationships between nations, to improve our own understandings of local Indigenous peoples, their unique histories, homelands, languages, cultural practices, and spiritual beliefs. From coast to coast, we acknowledge the ancestral ceded and unceded territories of First Nations people, Inuit, Nunavut, and the Métis homelands of First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people that call these lands home. Please join me in a moment of reflection to acknowledge the harms and mistakes of the past, as well as the ongoing harms, and to consider how we can each, in our own way, move forward in a respectful and meaningful spirit of reconciliation and collaboration.
What's a Zoom meeting without speaking on mute? Thanks, Tammy. Just a moment of reflection kind of from the past year that Mom Stop the Harm has been on. And so today we're not only here to address and administer the business of our organization, but I think we're also here to celebrate and honor the courage and spirit of our membership. Our work is driven by more than just passion. It is propelled by the knowledge that our cause is just. Our voices, our grief, our anger, and our conviction will drive the change necessary to prioritize the lives of those that we love. We are not just making history with our actions, we are a force to be reckoned with. Across the country, our members have engaged in letter writing campaigns, organized grassroots actions, participated in acts of civil disobedience, and stood in solidarity with other organizations to fight against injustice. Mom Stop the Harm shows up and leads in many events, including IOD, engages widely with media, and has fought to occupy seats at all levels of government. Our voices are strong. Our commitment for social justice, the fight against stigma, for nationwide decriminalization, and for a regulated supply is recognized in every corner of the country. And this is all thanks to our members. Just a brief update on what's been kind of going across the country. All of it is identified in our annual report, which everybody should have received a copy of. But in BC, Mom Stop the Harm has stood in solidarity with Dolph, worked hard to define and defend the decriminalization pilot, has supported the fight against involuntary care. Our members' relentless commitment to saving lives has gained a significant recognition within the province. In Alberta, Mom Stop the Harm is recognized as a formidable critic by the Alberta government, with the Alberta Association of Chiefs of Police naming us as a top concern. Our members there have confronted numerous challenges, including opposition from government, and are amazingly resilient in the face of adversity. In Saskatchewan, the province is experiencing all-time high numbers of drug poisoning deaths as the government cuts back on vital life-saving harm reduction access and services. Our members, in partnership with other harm reduction organizations, continue to fight for increased access to harm reduction and equitable resources. In Manitoba, Mom Stop the Harm's efforts contributed to the election of the NDP premier, which with hope everyone hopes will bring positive change. Advocacy efforts are being coordinated through monthly member meetings as our members work hard to bring awareness and understanding within their home communities and throughout the province. In Ontario, Mom Stop the Harm vigilantly monitors Ottawa, collaborating with other organizations to support and fight against the prohibitive Doug Ford government. Our members in Ontario stand in solidarity with people who use drugs, combating rampant stigma and maintaining safe spaces and consumption sites, even in the smallest of communities. In Quebec, Mom Stop the Harm has a small but formidable presence. Our Quebec advocates work tirelessly to raise awareness and promote compassion within their communities. In Atlantic Canada, a small but dedicated group of members are spearheading awareness and educational campaigns aimed at changing the narrative and removing barriers for all people who use drugs. And over the course of the last year, we collaborated, updated our key position statements. Those which we introduced at a previous membership engagement, which I know not all of you were there. They are soon to be available on our website, and we also will be emailing them out in a next update so that everybody's aware of the changes that we've made. And with the membership engagement sessions, we started just after Christmas, and we are going to continue doing those. We're hoping to kind of ramp that up. And we're also looking for participation from our members to join in on those as well and help input the sessions. And so what we're also looking to increase. One thing we found from our membership and what they're requesting is an increased access to resources and educational materials. So with that, we're really looking to expand our National Education Committee and our National Action Committee and our Communications Committee. They all kind of intersect and work hand in hand. And we will be putting out a request for membership help in all three of those committees, and that will be kind of an update email, along with the key statements that will be going out. So all members are welcome to apply to join these committees, and we're looking for representation from across the country. Would be really good. And so all that will be going out in the next little while, and there's ample opportunity for members to join into the work that we're doing, and that's including at the municipal levels, provincial levels, and federal levels. So kind of just connect with us and we'll see where everybody fits. We're going to do a really brief board introduction. My name's Tracy. I probably should have started with that. My official position is vice chair, though I've been in the acting role of chair since November of 2023. I live and work on the stolen unceded lands of the Coast Salish peoples. And I recently lost my son, which is really kind of propelled me in this work even more. It's kind of giving me more of a focus for the anger and grief that I have, and that this organization, it saved my life in so many ways. And I just want to pay back to the organization for that. And I have a great appreciation for Petra, Lorna, and Leslie for starting this. Could I have all board members raise their hands? No, like, yeah, thanks, Corey. Just so that you're popped to the top of my screen. So as we kind of work our way through. So I'm just going to work through my screen, and I'll start with Katie since she's first. If you can do a brief introduction.
Thanks, Tracy. Yeah, so I am the Atlantic Region Director of Mom Stop the Harm. I just joined last June. I identify first and foremost as a person who has injected drugs. But of course, I've lost many loved ones from the policy failures that we're fighting against right now. So I'm glad to see everyone here. Thanks.
Thanks, Katie. And next is Dorothy.
Hi there, I'm Dorothy Backer. I'm from Guelph, Ontario, and I've been on the board for a year now. I lost my son in 2017. Thank you.
And Ruth, sorry.
That's okay. Thank you. I'm Ruth Fox. Dorothy, I just want to point out there's something funny going on with Zoom, and so you're showing as Ruth Fox. You can be me if you want, but just wanted to let you know in case you want to change your name and be yourself. Yeah, as I said, I'm Ruth Fox. I live in Ottawa, Ontario, which is built on the unceded and unsurrendered territory of the Anishinaabe Algonquin Nation, whose presence and stewardship here reaches back to time immemorial. I recognize that I am a guest living on these lands. I became aware of Mom Stop the Harm a few months after my youngest son, Trevor, died from accidental drug poisoning in August 2020. I joined the organization first as a member in 2021, and then joined the board of directors at last year's AGM. I took on the role of acting secretary in the fall of 2023. Trevor was 25 years old. He was fully engaged in life, and he did not have a history of problematic substance use. I hope to be a voice for Trevor and others like him in advocating for change to the harmful drug policies and stigma that I believe contributed to Trevor's death. Thank you.
And Corey.
Good morning. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Great. Or perhaps good afternoon for some of you. My name's Corey. I use he, him pronouns. I'm a registered nurse. I live on the unceded territory of the Cowichan tribe and what is colonially referred to as Duncan, but I do work with individuals across this country, and I'm a nurse. And most of my career, I've been flanked by grieving moms because I've been working in the drug poisoning crisis and in harm reduction for over 10 years. Some of the people who I've grown to love and trust most has been the same people who are flanking me right now. It's Corrine, who is a staff member, and Leslie, who's a co-founder. And I can't express my appreciation and my gratitude and my care for Mom Stop the Harm, for all of their members, for their staff, for their board, current and past. And so I agreed. I took on a board spot myself because I believe in Mom Stop the Harm, and I think we've got a lot of good work that we can do together. And so I'm grateful to be here today. Thank you.
Thanks, Corey. And Tammy.
All right, hello everyone. I'm Tammy Taliu. I'm on Treaty 1 territory, colonial known as Winnipeg. I joined the board, well, I'm finishing my first term, so 2 years ago, whatever that is. And I joined Mom Stop the Harm before that. Well, we lost one of my family members, my 22-year-old niece, to fentanyl poisoning in 2018. And that really inspired me to make some change or try to make some change for what I see as all these preventable deaths. I'm also a person with lived experience, but going back many, many years. So I've been part of the recovery community for about 2 decades as well. And I'm grateful to the support from all the people I've met through Mom Stop the Harm, fellow board members, and everything, because I've realized how much I had to learn and still have to learn. And so I get a lot of that from my participation with this organization. So I'm very grateful for what all of you do every day. So thank you.
And Willie.
Hi, good morning and afternoon to everyone. My name is Willie McCorriston. I am currently the treasurer for Mum Stop the Harm since November of 2023. I stepped into the role when our previous treasurer had to step out. I've been a board member since 2017. And I'm from Saskatchewan Treaty 6. My daughter is a person in recovery using opioid agonist therapy since about 2017. She was incarcerated as a result of her drug use. So my special interest is in advocacy for justice issues for people who use drugs. And I would also like to express my sincere gratitude for all of you who are here and everybody out there who's swinging at this, because it's a huge, big fight that we have on our hands. And like Corey and some others said, I see some movement from some people that I never thought I would see movement from. So we are making progress, and we can't give up, because a lot of people will say, well, I can't imagine losing a child. And unfortunately, a lot more people are going to have to imagine it if we don't keep working on this. And so I commend all of you for doing what you do, and thank you for being here. And I'm so sorry to everyone who has lost a child or a loved one, and or people who are still seeing people that are experiencing problems as a result of their substance use. So thank you again for being here, and keep swinging. Thank you.
Thanks, Willie. It looks so we're a little out of order on the agenda, but it looks like Susie has joined us. So I'm going to hand it over to Antoinette and to Susie.
Hi, thanks, Tracy. I'm Antoinette Gravel-Ouellette. I'm the Stronger Together Canada Program Coordinator, and it's my honor to introduce Susie McPherson-Durendy, who is our elder that works with us. And Susie always brings in a lens and a perspective of reconciliation and connection. And so I just welcome Susie today to open us with a few words.
Thank you, Antoinette, and thank you, everyone. Good morning or good afternoon now. So good to be here. I'm just going to start with some words in Cree and then just kind of land acknowledgement that I have gathered over time. Join with me. I just want to say also that I bring greetings. I greet you from Brandon, Manitoba, Canada. Sorry. Isamandu gananaskamatana naskagisaga. Saw wenaminan gamino bimatsiak. Wijihinan ganawenimanan annos wabuke gumadahtagisago. Wijihinan ganawenimanan gakinoninanan gejwasmsa na bewak egwasquewak squesisak ewanapesisak. Minanan ananosawan ego minomachihon. So I want to acknowledge and give thanks for the ancestral territory of the Indigenous nations who were and are here on these lands, for the 600 plus Indigenous nations that were here across Canada prior to European contact, unique and distinct societies with their own languages and systems of governance, who knew the land, the waters, the skies, the patterns of weather and animals, who looked after themselves, each other, their communities, and their nations, and who saw themselves as a part of creation and lived as such, always mindful of the generations to come. So this afternoon, we look to the east, the south, the west, and the north. We acknowledge all the Indigenous nations across the land, and we acknowledge and give thanks for their ancestral story, truth, and wisdom, that has brought them to this time and this place. We acknowledge how the story unfolded over time. We turn full circle to the east, and we acknowledge all the nations who now call this place home, those who came as guests, settlers, visitors, newcomers, refugees, immigrants. And we acknowledge their story too and all that they brought here. We are mindful of how all of our stories, each and every one of our stories, are connected to that Indigenous worldview story that was happening here. And so we give thanks for this day, for this time together, for the purposes that we are gathered. We give thanks for each and every one, for the journey that we've been on, for all that we hold and carry, all that we hope for, and the vision for which we live and do our work. So I say, Egwesani, Ninanaskamun, Gachino Nawakamagana. And then there's a welcome song, and I welcome each and every one of you here. I'll just sing a couple of verses. I usually sing it with a drum. So there's an elder who sings this song daily and often, welcoming the spirits from the different directions, spirit of connection and grounded, being grounded in this time together. The spirit of whatever each and any one of us needs, whether it be a spirit of hope, courage, peace, comfort. So I sing this verse. Hey ya ya ya, hey ya ya ya, hey ya ya ya, oh hey, oh hey, hey ya ya ya, oh hey. Hey ya ya ya, hey ya ya ya, hey ya ya ya, oh hey, oh hey, hey ya ya ya, oh hey. So that first verse was for the 6 directions, above and below, in addition to the east, south, west, north. And then the last one is for the direction within. So I thank you for being with me this morning as I bring greetings to you, and I wish you a wonderful meeting. Egwesane Nananaskama. Thank you.
Thank you, Susie. Yeah, it's hard to follow that. And so next up is we have Petra Schultz.
Thank you. Thank you, Tracy. It's wonderful to be here with all of you this morning. I had to switch to my phone because the internet was not good. Otherwise, I hope this works. I'd like to bring you all greetings on behalf of the co-founders, and would like us to be grounded and remember.
I'm not listening to it right now.
It's another I think if everybody could mute themselves, please, that'd be great. Or if Tyler has the powers to mute. Yeah, I want us all to be grounded and reflect why we are here. We all have somebody, or sometimes more than one person in our lives that brought us to this. This fight was really, as of late, more than ever before, is a fight. They're people that we love and mourn, and people that we fight to keep with us and have hope for the future. It's been 10 years since I lost my son, Danny. This 10th anniversary was hard, and I spent a day before with the government presenting to the standing committee on health, which was a challenge, but was so important. And I want us all to remember the ones we have lost. What I found in particular, when there is somebody in our community who's been part of the struggle, and we live and we learn, and as we go along, we know what needs to happen. We know we need safe supply. We know that we need more harm reduction. We need supervised consumption. We need drug checking. We know, and we fight for all of these things. And then when we lose somebody in our midst, like has happened many times before, and recently happened when Tracy lost her son, I find it hits really hard. And there are days, if I'm honest with you, there are days where I despair and say, what is this for? Where are we going? And on one of these days, I shared this with my oldest, and they said, you only know the ones you lost. You don't know your wins. And I reflected on that. And it was actually just a couple of days later, I walked in my neighborhood, and in front of a neighbor's house, there was a young woman who wanted to pet my dog. And I let her pet the dog, and we chatted for a moment. And I said, yeah, I just live over there. And she said, oh, are you Petra? I said, yes, I am. And are you this person's granddaughter? She said, I am. And she said, I want to thank you so much. She said, she said literally these words, I am here because of you. And it really deeply moved me. And it was years ago that I had connected her family with some services. She had lost a boyfriend, but she's doing well now. So I want us all to remember that often what worked, where we were able to help someone, where we saved somebody, where we were able to tweak a policy. We don't always know this, but it does happen. So I hope that little stories like this can give all of us hope in continuing the struggle and continuing what we do. And to remember those we lost this year and in years before, let's take a moment of silence, and let's also think of those we hope to keep alive.
Wonderful. Thank you, Petra. We're kind of a little bit out of order on the agenda, so we're going to kind of hop back to, I think, staff introductions. So any staff members that have joined us today, can you put your hands up? And Jackie, okay, so I will start with the group sitting with Corey. We'll see, we can start with Corinne or Leslie, either.
Making me move things around. Okay, there we go.
Okay, where are we here?
Here you go. You're unmuted.
I'm unmuted. Hi. I can't see very well because anyways, yes, we're in the same room. We're here at the BCC SU annual conference, listening to some amazing speakers. That's why the three of us are together on one computer. My name is Leslie McBain, and I am co-founder of Mom Stop the Harm, along with Petra and Lorna. And what am I actually supposed to talk about? Just introductions. So that's me. I lost my son in 2014, and since then have been advocating for support to save the lives of people who use drugs and to support those who are struggling. And I am very committed and happy to be in this organization and to see it grow. Thanks.
Wonderful. Thanks, Leslie. Hi, Corinne.
Hi, everybody. Just to follow on what Leslie said, we're in Vancouver today, and it's really amazing to be with so many like-minded people. I'm the BC Support Group Coordinator for Holding Hope for families that have loved ones struggling. I myself have a daughter in active substance use for the last 15 years, and just so grateful that these groups have come through this organization, because I was in the pilot project in Victoria many years ago, and our groups have morphed to across Canada. So thank you all. Here we go. Oh, Corey.
Thank you both. And next on my screen is Jackie.
Good morning or afternoon, everyone. I'm Jackie Huser, and I am the peer support coordinator for the Interior Health region of BC for the Holding Hope support groups. I have a daughter who is just over 3 years in recovery after 10 years, 5 of those on the downtown east side. So we're grateful every single day, and I'm so grateful for Mom Stop the Harm, and Holding Hope saved my life as well. So thanks everyone for being here, and thanks for what you all do.
Yeah, thanks, Jackie. Sticking with BC for now, we'll jump over to Gretchen, one of our newer employees.
Hi, everyone. Really happy to be here. I'm Gretchen. I'm from Nanaimo, BC. I am the program manager for the Family Peer Navigation Project. It's very new. We started it, really got it up and running in April. So working on that. And I lost my son in July 2021, and Mom Stop the Harm has saved my life also. So thank you, everyone here.
Nice to have you join us, Gretchen. And moving over to the east, so we have Antoinette.
Thanks. And thanks, everybody. Glad I could be here with you all today. And thank you for everybody coming on today, and for those who are watching afterwards. So I reside in Treaty 2 territory. I'm the Stronger Together Canada program coordinator. So I oversee and support and train facilitators for Healing Hearts and Holding Hope for the provinces outside of BC, so from Alberta on. And my journey with Mom Stop the Harm started when I met Petra at a different meeting and was invited in to help support families. I also have lived experience. I've been 22 years abstinent from stimulants and alcohol. I have kids that are in various stages of their wellness journey, and my dad actually passed due to alcohol related harms. And I've also had many people dear to my heart pass. And I find it's quite an honor to connect with people all across Canada. And because of watching and connecting with both Hope and Hearts, I'm always amazed at the resiliency and the tenacity that people have. And I don't even know if those are the right words. It's more about the passion and the love. And to me, that's why this exists, because it's the love and the caring for people and the caring to come together. I'm emotional. The caring coming together to care and support one another. And that's what really the core essence of Mom Stop the Harm is. It's about standing together and supporting one another as we journey through this. So thank you.
Antoinette and Tyler.
Hi, everyone. It's wonderful to see so many people here, you know, the faces and such. And it's always really good when we get together as this organization. I'm Tyler Savard. I joined Mom Stop the Harm in early 2017. So within that first year of being in existence, I started as a Holding Hope member. And unfortunately, we're still on the Holding Hope side of things with our daughter that's working on life. But at the same time, then I also took on additional roles other than just being a volunteer. And so I also am the Stronger Together Canada program manager, as well as the acting director of operations. So I hold the two hats for right now, just to be able to help keep things going forward as an organization. And I'm honored to be a part of everything. So it's great to see everyone. Thanks, Tracy.
I noticed too that Angela Welts is here today. I'm not sure if she wants to introduce herself. She's one of our key volunteers in the organization. Oh, I thought I heard somebody. And so, Angela, did you want to give a wave to everybody, or?
Well, just looking at early May and April.
Can we keep everybody muted unless you're actually being called on? I guess Angela doesn't want to say hi. So anyways, next coming up is really
Sorry,
just want to
Tracy.
say,
Sorry,
oh.
Tracy. I couldn't raise my hand here. I just.
Oh, sorry, Helen. Didn't
Yeah,
see you
yeah.
hiding there.
Yeah, no, for some reason my hand wouldn't go up. So I'm Helen Jennings. I'm here in Kelowna. Joined Mom Stop the Harm in 2016 after I lost my youngest son, Tyler, to a fentanyl poisoning. In 2011, I lost my oldest boy to a prescription drug overdose. So have been a longtime member of Mom Stop the Harm, and then 4 years ago joined the Stronger Together. And I'm the facilitator coordinator for the Healing Hearts group in British Columbia. So awesome to see everybody here.
Thanks, Helen. There's also, we do have another key volunteer that looks after the membership requests that come into BC, and that's Deb Bailey. And I think she wants to say hi. There we are. Go ahead, Deb.
Hi, everybody. Good to see you at the AGM. I'm at the BCCSU conference with a lot of other people, 900 plus people, but took time out to come to the wonderful AGM. Thanks, Tracy.
Great. Thanks, Deb. All right. You think I'd figure this mutant thing out by now. One thing I do want to do is I really want to express my heartfelt, and I think this kind of, covers the entire board, our gratitude to each and every one of our Mom Stop the Harm team members for their commitment to their programming, to the organization, and they have this unwavering passion for the cause. And every single person that is part of the team, whether it's at leadership or at staff levels, have had a lasting impact on so many people's lives. And they're the first line of contact for so many. And without them, we would be completely lost. And I just so grateful for the people that we have. Thank you. And kind of looking at the agenda here is next is, and I'm so excited about this, it's Petra is up next again and introducing Andrea Sereda. And we are honored to have you, Andrea. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I echo that. We are honored, we're excited to have Andrea as a speaker. I have actually never met Andrea in person, hoping to do so at some point soon, but really closely followed her work. Safer supply is so important. We know what is killing people is the toxic drug supply, and addressing that issue is just fundamental. And Andrea is just one of the key people in the country doing this. She's a lead physician at the London Inter Community Health Centre. And she cares for people otherwise marginalized from the traditional healthcare system. Like people use drugs, people who don't have housing, women who are in the survival sex trade, and she cares for people in non-traditional settings, such as in shelters and jails, which is so important, as we all know how people lack care there. She's a founding physician of the Safer Opioid Supply, SOS, and they provide regulated alternatives to people who are dependent on unregulated street drugs. Andrea is a harm reductionist. She practices solidarity, and with the goal of eliminating power structures in medicine that perpetuate poor health and oppression. And I've seen Andrea in action. I have also seen how she's been targeted and attacked, especially on social media. And it's so good to see that many of us stand in solidarity with Andrea. This is really, as I said earlier, this has become a fight. And Andrea is one of the fighters, but she's also somebody who is wounded. So when we have somebody on the forefront like Andrea, it's really, really important for all of us to stand with her in solidarity and protect people as much as we can. So happy to invite you to this very, very safe place where you're more than welcome, where you're among friends who love you, Andrea. And so excited that you will be presenting to us. For those of you who have questions for Andrea, please put those in the chat, and Tyler will put the questions to Andrea after the presentation. So thank you so much again for being here this morning or this afternoon with us.
Thank you, Petra. You're going to make me cry before I even get started here. So I'm just going to take about 20 seconds and put up a few slides here. Now, can I just confirm with the group that you're in fact seeing my slides and not my notes? Awesome.
Yes.
Thank you.
Correct.
So thank you so much again for having me here today. I'm so honored, and I'm so nervous. You're going to get that out of me as well today. I'm so nervous to be in front of Mom Stop the Harm, because this group may not know this, but this organization is one I've admired for many, many years. And it's the leaders of Mom Stop the Harm that actually have been such an important part of my growth of understanding of the toxic drug crisis, an important part of my resolve to make a difference. I think it's funny that Petra said she hasn't met me because she doesn't remember this, obviously. But back in 2019, we were both at the Harm Reduction International Conference in Portugal, and Petra was giving a talk, and I was in the audience nervously again. And afterwards, I went up to her and introduced myself, and I told her I was prescribing Safe Supply in Ontario. And I think she looked at me in that moment in 2019 like, who the heck are you, lady? But she gave me such kind words of encouragement, and it's a memory I really hold close to my heart in this Safe Supply journey. This is also the conference where I met Dr. Jillian Cola and Zoe Dodd and Liz Evans, and where I completely embarrassed myself fangirling to Garth Mullins. So, this whole conference felt like I was a kid with a backstage pass who got to meet all of my rock star harm reduction heroes. So I think it's really safe to say that everyone here today knows what Safe Supply is. So I'm not actually going to talk about the mechanics of Safe Supply with you today or the research that supports it. We do have time at the end for questions, and I'd be happy to talk about the science and if there's questions around that. But what I want to do instead today is in the short time I have is focus on the humanity of people who use drugs and the people who love them, and center them in our time together today. And I'm going to tell some stories about my own journey to where I am today in my life in 2024, and some stories about my patients, and some will be sad and some will be uplifting and some will be somewhere in between. So my journey into harm reduction came early in my career. I graduated from my medical residency back in 2010, and at that time I started my practice in a local homeless shelter here in London, Ontario. And 2010 was also the year that my husband developed a psychotic illness that was made worse by his attempts to treat his symptoms with street drugs. And so 2010 was also the first time that I had an inside view to how people who use drugs were treated by doctors and how they were treated by the medical system. Because even being a doctor, even knowing all the right people at the hospital, he was discharged again and again and again with the instructions that he just needs to stop doing drugs. And I did what many desperate family members do, and I emptied my bank account to get him into private treatment, and it didn't work. And his mental illness finally escalated into 2 attempts on my life, and I had to leave my husband and I had to leave my marriage. And we'd been together since we were 17 years old. And so he's still out there and he's still sick and he's still not getting help. And although I know his illness was not my fault, I will forever have that feeling that I didn't do enough. And I think that if only feeling that I know so many people here today share. It's not our fault, but what if the system was different? So I started my career as a doctor thinking drugs were bad and evil and people shouldn't do them. Drugs had made my husband sick. They had caused me to lose my marriage. Drugs were bad. And this was all happening in the context in the middle of the push for opioid deprescribing because of OxyContin. And so there were medical guidelines. They were coming out right, left, and center about, maximum opioid doses that people could and should receive. There were guidelines about cutting people off their opioid medications, et cetera, et cetera. And so back in those first years of my career, I tried really hard to follow those deprescribing guidelines, to follow those medical rules that said I should be getting people off the drugs because drugs were bad. And because I worked in a shelter, many of my original patients, were people who inject drugs. And at that time, OxyContin was still the major opioid on the street. So I had more patients than I care to count, looking back in hindsight, who I was trying to wean off of OxyContin, just like I was supposed to do as a good new doctor. But what I quickly learned was people didn't stop using OxyContin. They just went to the street to get what they needed. And very soon, what the street was providing was fentanyl. And because I didn't give people what they needed, which was opioids to stave off their withdrawal, because I didn't give them what they needed, which was an understanding of why they use drugs and the role of drugs in their life, people would often stop coming to see me in those first years of my medical practice. So let's fast forward a few years to 2015. And I was working at the health center now, and a woman who I didn't recognize was in clinic. And this woman, she had HIV, she had severe valvular dysfunction from endocarditis, which we know was an infection of the heart, and then she was dying from heart failure from that infection. And this woman said to me, she said, "Hi, Dr. Sereda." And I replied, "Hello, I'm sorry, but I don't know your name." And she replied, "Dr. Sereda, it's Alice." I had met Alice 4 to 5 years before this, so back in that 2010 range. At that time, she was a young, vibrant, intelligent, beautiful Indigenous woman who also happened to inject drugs because of severe childhood trauma. And I had weaned Alice off of her OxyContin script those 4 to 5 years ago, just like I was supposed to. I suggested methadone only, just like I was supposed to. And Alice disappeared from my care, but she did not disappear from using drugs, and she moved into using fentanyl as OxyContin became harder and harder to get. And I had made that decision in 2010 to uncritically follow the medical guidelines that said Alice would be healthiest if I got her off the drugs, and weaning her OxyContin was the best choice for her. I did this even though Alice told me that this would not help her. And so the end result of following conventional opioid prescribing guidelines, of following conventional addiction medicine guidelines, the end result was not health for Alice. The end result for her was death. Alice died 12 days after I met her again in 2015. And I will hold that next to my heart for the rest of my life. That day was a turning point for me. It made me realize that doctors and healthcare professionals, we think we know what is best for our patients, especially people who use drugs, but we don't. And I decided what happened to Alice was not going to happen again to someone in my care. And so that was my gateway to building a medical practice grounded in the principles of harm reduction. So that's what I did. That's what I tried to do. From 2016 until today, my team at the health center in London has expanded our safe supply program from our original 3 patients to about 300. And I think most of you have heard that story. And we have patients now like Cindy, who, when we met her, she was dying on the streets from AIDS when our team met her. And Cindy's now housed and fentanyl free, and her HIV is fully treated. We have patients like James. Oh, my apologies. We have patients like James, who is homeless and buying 300 milligrams of methadone every single day. He was buying methadone on the street, let's remember that, on top of his fentanyl just to stay out of withdrawal. And James is housed now. He's only using his safe supply, and he is a pillar in our peer community. We also have Paul. He had drug-resistant HIV, and he was expected to die within a few months of us meeting him. He was homeless. He was psychotic. He was almost a daily visitor to the Emerge, or our police cells. But Paul is now housed on his safe supply. His HIV is treated and his psychosis is settled, and he has continued to get better and better, and he is doing so well. We've known Paul for a decade, and it was only 2 months ago that we actually learned he could speak fluent French. Paul has come back into himself and come back into his humanity and who he wants to be. We also have Samantha, who was initiated into fentanyl at the age of 14 when she was sex trafficked. She has fought so hard, harder than any woman I've ever met. And she's now housed using only her safe supply, and she's raising a beautiful young 4-year-old daughter. And so we have 300 people on our program. And so we have hundreds of stories of people who fought to regain their lives, and they fought to regain their lives supported by safe supply. We also have countless people who we do not have the capacity to bring into our program, and they beg me for their lives when I walk by them on the street. But we're caring for so many people, as many as we can care for safely right now, and we have to give this devastating no to the people who reach out their hands to help. And sometimes we arrive for work in the morning to learn that that person who begged us for help is now dead. And these people die as our government dithers and follows the polls and dribbles out money for pilot programs with no commitments to real action in this crisis that has been killing our loved ones for 8 years, And we have families and we have parents who have lost their children to this toxic drug supply. I remember every single mother I've ever had to call to give them the news, every single one, just like I know almost every person here has had to receive that devastating phone call. I met a parent about a year ago who had lost their child to a fentanyl overdose at a presentation I was giving, and this parent approached me and they told me that their child had been using safe supply given to them by a friend. And I thought this parent was going to be angry with me. But that parent told me that that diverted safe supply had kept their child alive longer than they otherwise would have been. And then this parent also told me that their child died on my waiting list to access safe supply. Their child died on the waiting list for safe supply. And that took my breath away. Because this parent lost their child because everyone who needs a safe supply, they cannot access it. This parent lost their child because government takes no meaningful action in this crisis. And these lives that have been saved and these lives that have been lost have all been during a period of time when the research proving that safe supply saves lives has grown and grown and grown. But during the same period of time, we have faced unrelenting, vicious, and untrue attacks on harm reduction in Canada while we are trying to keep the people that we love and we serve alive. And these vicious attacks, we know they're based in lies and stigma and personal and financial and political gain. And these attacks are from politicians who seek to enrage their base with lies, from media that would never be published in any reputable national newspaper, and from some addiction medicine physicians who seem to have lost the whole damn plot line that 42,000 people are dead across Canada from illicit fentanyl. But this is not a fight that is new to us, to this group, or to people who use drugs. I want everyone here to remember that 16 years ago, another federal Conservative Party tried to stop life-saving harm reduction services when they tried to shut down Insight. And that Conservative government, they lost their war on people who use drugs because all 9 judges of Canada's Supreme Court unanimously ruled that the federal health minister's attempts to close Insight went against this country's Charter of Rights and Freedoms by threatening the safety and lives of the people who needed to use it. And back in that day in 2008, the law came through for drug users on that day. It came through for them. And drug users, they fought for their lives all the way to the Supreme Court. And what other group of humans would have that resolve, would have that courage and that tenacity to push all the way to the Supreme Court? I don't know of any other group. Drug users have developed the interventions and the approaches that save their own lives, while at the same time trying to bear the stigma that a lot of the country bears for them. And so as a harm reduction community, I believe we have some pretty rough years ahead. They want to take safe supply away. They want to take safe consumption sites away. They want to take clean needles and gear away. They want to blame the housing crisis on decrim. They want to throw people who use drugs into involuntary treatment and throw away the key. And they want to use the lives of the people that we love and we serve as pawns in their own ambitions. But just like in 2008, just like everything we have won in harm reduction, they will not succeed in the end because of groups like Moms Stop the Harm. I am personally committed to fighting for this future where drug users' lives matter as much as anyone else's, where scientific evidence and not stigma guides public policy, and where no more parents will lose their children to the toxic drug supply. This is a picture of my beautiful daughter, Adrian, and Adrian's 9. And I'm committed to this fight for her as well, so that our children who will grow up to become adults will grow up in a safer and more compassionate Canada. And it's the courage of Moms Stop the Harm that bolsters and amplifies the courage of others, including myself. And I thank you for that courage. I don't know if you know how much Canada admires you, how much Canada follows you, how much Canada draws on your strength to continue this fight. And so thank you, Petra, for your words about me, but it's right back at you. It's Moms Stop the Harm that is pulling us all through to do the right thing. And I want to say thank you. So please, again, thank you for having me today. It's been an honor.
Oh, thank you, Andrea. This presentation was fabulous. And I just want to applaud the work that you do and the courage that you've shown in the work and the adversity that you've had to overcome, and the personal attacks that you've faced in the last year. In regards to your work, Moms Stop the Harm supports you, the work you do. And like I said, we were really honored that you're able to come and present to us today. So I see there's questions in the chat. That's something that Tyla is going to moderate.
Actually, we don't have any questions. It's just everyone being so thankful and
Okay.
yeah, pouring their gratitude towards you, Andrea.
Okay.
Yeah, no, just it's all just very heartfelt. No questions whatsoever at this point in time. I have posted that if there are any, please do post them. So, but nothing yet.
Okay. Yeah, your presentation brought tears to my eyes, and
I have a question, Andrea. What is the best way in which our members can support people like you who are on the forefront of making change? What do you think people can do, each one of us individual in our own communities or on a national level? I'm sure there are people who want to help out and support your important work.
It's a big question, and I wish I had a perfect answer to it. When I get asked this in community, I say one of the biggest reasons why we're not getting real action on this crisis is because government follows the polls. And most of my patients don't vote, and drug users, many don't vote, but the people who love them do. And we know right now that, liberal policy is being driven by polls. So if the Liberals, if the Conservatives, if anybody thinks that these issues matter to us and we vote like they matter to us and we talk to our elected officials, we write to our MPs, we write to our MPPs, we write to everybody, we write to every minister, which I know we all do. That's how we can change polls. And it's the actions like Moms Stop the Harm that are humanizing everybody who's been lost in this crisis that I'm hopeful will change those polls as well. So we all know that we're heading into a federal election, probably sooner than later. Ontario is heading into a provincial election, probably sooner than later. And I think we need to get on the front lines of campaigning for people who we know will support the lives of the people that we love, but also getting the message out in every single forum that we can during that critical time when politicians have to hang their hat on promises.
Okay, so we did have a question come up, Andrea. So how long is SOS being prescribed in Canada, and where is it being prescribed now?
I believe that we were the first in 2016 in London, Ontario. And Rebecca Penn is on this call. And if she knows of anyone who was earlier, she is the person who will know it. But I do believe that it's been since 2016. And we, in London, we operated pretty much in silence from 2016 to 2019, because I'm not going to lie, I was scared. I was scared to admit what I was doing. I was scared the college would come calling. I didn't know what was going to happen. So we were pretty quiet until then. And then, I worked at my courage and I did my very first presentation in 2019. And that's where the ball really started rolling, I believe. And I connected with people like Jillian Cola. And at that time, safer supply of prescribing started to expand in Ontario. Some clinics opened in Toronto and Ottawa. And then we had the risk mitigation guidelines that came out, I believe they're in 2020 in BC. And so that expanded prescribing there. But right now, as everybody knows, almost every safe supply program is operating under time-limited pilot project funding from Health Canada, from Substance Use and Addiction Program. And as far as we know, everybody's funding ends in March 2025. And we're looking down the barrel of who can afford to keep on doing this, right? And so when you're asking kind of where is it across Canada, it's a little bit in the Maritimes. It's a little bit in Nova Scotia. It's a little bit in Quebec. It's a bit more in Ontario. There's nothing in Manitoba or Saskatchewan that I'm aware of. We all know what has happened in Alberta, where they have legislated safe supply into complete obsolescence and killed people who are on safe supply. And then in British Columbia, I'm not aware of a ton of specific programs per se, but we know we have the largest amount of people who are receiving safe supply because of the risk mitigation guidelines. We also know that number is decreasing because of the political environment in British Columbia.
There is another question. How do you get to prescribe the drug, and why don't other doctors do it? This person, their son had asked in 2016 and was denied the drug to wean off, and then was denied because their response was because they wouldn't do it because they would lose their license. So how does a doctor go about doing it to get that licensing or to get that capability, and why are there not more?
Yeah. And I would say that doctor needs to grow a pair. I don't know if they need what gender of pair they need to grow, but they need to grow it because there's nothing illegal about doing safe supply. There's this kind of common myth that you need this special exemption to do safe supply, the way you would need an exemption for a consumption site. You need this special license from the government. You don't. Hydromorphone is a medication that any physician in any province except Alberta can prescribe under any indication that they feel will benefit their patient. So any family physician, any addiction physician, any internal medicine physician can go read our guidelines on the Community of Practice website. They can talk to those of us who've been doing this, and they can start doing this in their own practice. The only barrier is their willingness to do so.
The next one is the Minister of Mental Health and Addictions in Alberta, Dan Williams, mentioned that being on methadone is not being in recovery. How do we fight that rhetoric?
Well, I try to keep my potty mouth under control, but that's horse shit. We all know that methadone is in recovery, right? Why would we wouldn't say the same thing to somebody who has diabetes and is on metformin for the rest of their life. We wouldn't say that to somebody who has, a cancer that needs a medication to keep that at bay for the rest of their life. We wouldn't say that to a man who needs, Cialis for the rest of his life in order to get an erection. We wouldn't say that to any person who needs a medication for a medical condition for the rest of their life, that they're not well, that they're not in recovery from that condition. That medication keeps them well. And that's what methadone or buprenorphine or safe supply does for people. It is a chronic medication for a chronic ongoing medical condition that some people will need for their entire life. And how we fight that stigma, again, I look to this group for advice as much as I'm trying to give it, other than repeating the message over and over and over again, and quite frankly, hoping for a generational shift.
Our next one is just asking for your advice on how to best counter the misinformation on safer supply that is so prevalent in the broad public.
Again, I wish I had a good answer here. I do, if anyone follows me on Twitter, I can't call it X, it's still Twitter to me. I do a lot of fact checking posts. I don't know if they go anywhere. I don't know if they convince anyone. But I do my very best to very professionally lay out the truth. I think we all need to be really careful, and I'm as bad at this as anyone else in not amplifying the misinformation and the disinformation. I think when, and I'm going to name him, when Adam Zivo arrived on the scene, he made us so angry that we would retweet, repost, correcting all of his lies and information. And I think what that did is actually put some wind in the sails of that. And so I think a lot of us are now trying not to interact with that, not to amplify it, not to give it any more air than it already has. And so I think we need to do both. We need to put the correct information out there. And we also need to ignore the bad actors so that we're not spreading their message, because repeating a lie is the best way to get more people to hear it.
It was also asked if you could share all your social tags with us afterwards so we can share it in our follow-up email to everyone. I know there's lots of people asking.
Absolutely.
If we can follow you.
I'm just Andrea Sereda, all small letters, on Twitter. I don't do any other social media. So that's the only place you'll find me.
All right, easy enough. So our next one is a question about your viewpoint on safe supply, as in safe meth, cocaine, and extras like Dolph has introduced to Canada.
That's a hard one too. Absolutely, it needs to exist. It needs to exist, but it doesn't work as well from doctors as safe opioid supply works from doctors. Safe opioid supply, I have opioid molecules that can closely reproduce what people need in their brain, sticks on those brain receptors closely enough to fentanyl that we can make progress, right? But with stimulants like crack or cocaine or crystal meth, we don't have a prescription-based molecule that matches the experience on those receptors well enough. And so a lot of people find it just doesn't give them that sensation or relief from withdrawal or relief from urges the same way a safer opioid supply does. That doesn't mean that we don't try. We do it in London. We have many people on safer, stimulant supply, which involves, combinations of various, long-acting stimulants and short-acting like Ritalin to get people where they need to be. But I would say it's only about flip of the coin, 50-50, whether people stick with that. What we need is the drugs that people actually want and actually ask for, just like in safer opioid supply. And I think Dolph has been better positioned to actually help people with what they need by giving them that pure unadulterated crystal meth and cocaine. And if physicians could prescribe that, and this is where I'm afraid there's a mole, like on that other Zoom call earlier this week, right? But if physicians could prescribe crystal meth and cocaine, I think we would actually start to get somewhere.
The next question is, can you place a complaint to the College of Doctors for a doctor not prescribing safer supply?
You can. It will be difficult to be successful with a complaint. And complaints to at least in Ontario, I know the Ontario context, I assume it's similar in other provinces, but I don't know exactly. In Ontario, complaints need to come from a patient themselves. And so a patient, if they have a doctor who will not prescribe them safe supply, they can send a complaint into the college. It will be, the reason I say it's going to be hard to be successful is because the responding physician, I'm going to make an assumption, would come up with a list of reasons why they don't think it's safe for this person or for this community, right? And the CPSO in Ontario, their role is public safety. And so I think an individual complaint, although important, I'm not sure that it would be successful, and it wouldn't force that the college would never force that specific physician to prescribe safe supply to that specific patient because there would be breakdown in that physician-patient relationship. It may give a caution to that physician saying you need to consider all options to people who use drugs or who have addiction in your care, but for that specific person, they're not going to be able to force that physician to prescribe to them. I do believe that volumes of complaints certainly can move the needle. We know during COVID that there were many doctors online spreading mistruths and disinformation about the COVID vaccine, about the causes of COVID, et cetera, et cetera. And those physicians received large volumes of complaints from the public about that misinformation, and those doctors were sanctioned. And so if anyone wanted to organize a campaign where they wrote a large volume of complaints about misinformation from certain physicians on the topic of safe supply and addiction, and if there was a large volume of those complaints that went to the college, that may actually move the needle. That may move the needle, but it will have to be a large volume. I believe it was hundreds and hundreds of letters that moved the needle on those anti-vax physicians.
Our next one is, what is your magic phrase in response to the claim that our kids are dying from diverted supply?
Horseshit. We know that they're not dying from diverted supply. We know that they're not. The data says that they're not. I'm not going to stand up here and say that some kids, some adolescents are not accessing diverted safe supply and using diverted safe supply. Kids experiment with everything, and we need to be honest to ourselves that kids probably experiment with diverted safer supply as well. But we know from coroner statistics, we know from data and evidence and research that kids are not dying from diverted safe supply. They're dying from fentanyl. They're overwhelmingly dying from fentanyl. So again, those bad actors who are clutching their pearls and seem so concerned about the children, they're not actually very concerned about what's actually killing our children and killing our teens, and that's fentanyl.
Our next one is, do you ever enter into discussions about the right to use drugs? America's Dr. Carl Hart talks about the right to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. Have you found any Canadian constitutional rights that help individuals rather than institutions that help like Insight Services?
No. I believe in the right to use drugs. I believe that people choose to use and choose to continue to use drugs for a multitude of reasons in their life. It's at the afternoon here in Ontario. I was very nervous. I had a little gin and tonic before I joined this call, and that helped me to be less nervous and give a presentation to people I love and admire. And so, yes, I do believe in the right for people to use drugs. I don't know, and I'm going to name him, and I don't know if how he would feel about this, but Ben Perrin has been a really good voice in Canada, especially because he's changed his views on drug use and people who use them, and about, access to appropriate services, whether he might be a person who can argue for the right to use drugs because of his position of power and the respect that he does carry with his name. Sorry if someone passes that message on to Ben. I hope he doesn't kick me, but I wonder if he would be a good guy to do it.
Ben's actually come and presented and participated with us as well. So he's a good friend. I'm sure we're safe. So one last question. So in your practice, have you ever been threatened with audit by the College of Physicians? This person's son was booted off a safe supply by physicians threatened in BC, and they nearly lost him.
No, I have not been threatened by an audit. In 2019, so in kind of the summer, fall of 2019, I did a bit of a speaking tour, Ontario. I came to a family medicine forum in BC, and I told everybody I was doing safe supply, and I my heart was racing for like a year. And in fall 2019, I did end up at the college offices in Toronto, but not because they wanted to audit me, but because key addiction medicine physicians, who you'll know their names because they're interviewed in Adam Zivo's articles, those key addiction medicine physicians told the college that Safe Supply should be shut down, that I should not be allowed to prescribe Safe Supply, that it should actually be moved into the hands of addiction medicine, funnily enough, for all that they say in the National Post. And so, you know, I went to the college with other colleagues and we presented our early data and our approach, and, you know, the addiction medicine physicians presented why we were such bad people and we were killing people. And in the end, the college actually said, this is an emerging, you know, approach. You need to keep doing your research. You need to do it cautiously. We expect you to chart very carefully and select patients carefully and take really good care of them. All these things we're doing already. But they let us carry on, right? And the college is very clear that it's not their role to dictate clinical practice. That's not actually what they do. But after hearing the balance of evidence, they decided that this was not the risk to public safety that those prominent addiction medicine physicians were saying it was. And so we've carried on since then very carefully, but no, I have never faced an audit. I do know that the situation in BC is different. Their college is not, I don't know what, supportive is not the right word, but their college does not seem to be as open to the same information as the college in Ontario has been.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Andrea. That was all the questions that we had. And I did let everyone know in the chat that I'll make sure that you have a copy of all the chat comments and that afterwards as well, because there was lots of thank yous and such and just direct messages to you. So I'll make sure that you have a copy of that as well.
Thank you.
I'll turn it back over to Tracy.
Great. Thanks, Andrea. You know, I could listen to you for hours. There's just so much knowledge and information, and really appreciative. So I'm sure there'll probably be follow-up questions that we'll also send your way. Kind of next on the agenda is we're going to look at the retiring board of directors that we have. So I'm going to share my screen. So just give me a sec here. Yeah. There we go. Everybody can see my screen? Okay.
Yes, we can.
Yeah. Okay. And you don't see my notes? We're good for presenter view?
Yes.
Okay. So we prepared a little bit of presentation. We have had quite a few board of directors retire over the last year, or moving on to different things. So starting out on the East Coast, we have Emily, and Katie's going to speak of all the wonderful things that Emily has done and is continuing to do.
Thanks, Tracy. I said I could speak about Emily for a long time, and I know we're short on time, so I'll do my best. So Emily, of course, is from Quispamsis in New Brunswick, and she joined the board in 2021. So she completed a full term before deciding to step down. I believe it was the fall of 2023 to focus more so on her passions of advocacy, support, and education locally and provincially, which is a decision that we fully supported. So I just wanted to take the time to thank her for her dedication to the board of Mom Stop the Harm and highlight some of her work. There's a lot, so I couldn't highlight it all. She sits on many active committees and boards like the St. John Police Chief Community Action Group to develop action recommendations to address substance use and houselessness in a compassionate way. She joined the board of directors of Avenue B, which is a harm reduction organization that serves people on the ground who use drugs in her community. She is on the committee to plan the annual harm reduction symposium each year in New Brunswick. She's a member of the New Brunswick Toxicology Network, working towards creating a better drug checking technology and more access to that in New Brunswick. She's hosted art journaling workshops at Sophia Recovery Center this past year to help women there in their wellness journey. And she told me that she hopes to continue that. She really enjoyed it. She's been a guest speaker in a number of roles this past year at UNB Connect the Dots. She both spoke and was a guest judge of students' harm reduction scenarios that they were required to solve. She was in a drug checking webinar this past March, I believe. She spoke at last year's Mom Stop the Harm AGM. She was a speaker at Ben Perrin's national virtual book launch for Indictment, the Criminal Justice System on Trial. She spoke into the media and podcasts, notably the Sick Boy podcast produced by CBC back in 2022. And she's used her connections through these various committees and events to fuel her ongoing advocacy efforts as well. Through those connections, she's met with her city councillor, her MP, and Premier Blaine Hicks a number of times. This year in her province in New Brunswick, there's been an increased interest in involuntary treatment policies, which of course Mom Stop the Harm deeply opposes. Emily pushed back hard on this issue, collaborating on an open letter to the government of New Brunswick. She also spoke to media against this harmful Compassionate Intervention Act that her province was proposing. And we collectively felt a sigh of relief in the Atlantic Region Advocacy Group when it was announced in May 3rd of this year in the news that this proposed Compassionate Intervention Act would not be introduced into legislation that next month, citing that they recognized it was important to get this legislation right. And so they were delaying the bill's introduction for now. So this fight's not over and is ongoing, as many of our fights are. She's also a co-facilitator of Holding Hope, which is a virtual meeting in New Brunswick. And just that she's been doing that for a few years, but just this year, she spearheaded the opening of an in-person meeting in Quispamsis in her hometown. And Emily and I want to say, have participated in events together. I traveled to St. John for International Overdose Awareness Day in 2022 alongside her and other Mom Stop the Harm members. In June of 2022, she moderated a People Who Use Drugs panel, of which I was a panelist, during an Atlantic Safer Supply conference organized by the National Safer Supply Community of Practice. We even traveled together to the AGM that year of 2022 in Vancouver. Although I was terrified to travel, I believe she was the one that encouraged me to do that because I had very few opportunities to fly up until that point. And I just want to say that Emily honestly has been like, although she's not local, she's 3 hours away from me. We have a small group of advocates in the Atlantic region, and she has been sort of my rock. I had an immediate strong connection with her through our regional Mom Stop the Harm Facebook messaging group. If there's any Atlantic members that'd love to join, we'd like to have you. And, you know, I joined Mom Stop the Harm back before I even knew that drug user unions existed. And you know, I was just starting my journey working in harm reduction, and she provided so much support and encouragement to me personally. I feel that she helped me destigmatize myself. And I've said this before, and I will always say it, that Mom Stop the Harm, and Emily especially, loved me when my own family had thrown me away, shamed me, and stigmatized me. She supported me through terrible methadone withdrawal, through getting on a safer supply program, as have other members of Mom Stop the Harm. So Emily holds a very dear place in my heart. I know that was long, but like, I feel she deserves it. I don't know how she did all that on the board, honestly. So while raising children as well. So thank you so much to Emily for the work she's done with us.
Thanks, Katie. Yeah, Emily is going to definitely be missed. That's for sure. And next up we have, oh, sorry, my slides aren't moving. We have Charlene and Ruth.
Thank you, Tracy. It is my pleasure to recognize outgoing board member Charlene Vacon. Charlene lives in the Montreal area and works as a paramedic in Quebec and Ontario. In 2019, Charlene lost her eldest son, Archie, to fentanyl poisoning. Like so many of our lost loved ones, Archie died because of the toxic, unregulated drug supply, a direct result of prohibition. Charlene joined the board of directors in 2021 and took on the role of secretary in early 2022. Charlene continued in this role until late summer of 2023 when she needed to step away from the board. As so many of us understand, the death of a child to the toxic unregulated drug supply is devastating, and this loss becomes an undercurrent to everything else. Charlene has spent much of 2023 taking care of herself as she deals with the death of Archie and the depression and PTSD that resulted from this, as well as the subsequent losses of several family members. After more than a year and a lot of support, Charlene tells me that she is okay today. She is now caring full-time for her father, who has been diagnosed with terminal cancer. While she has had to step away from advocacy work, Charlene continues to support the work of Moms Stop the Harm as she is able through her membership. Charlene is a fierce advocate for decriminalization and harm reduction. I would like to point out that Charlene played a role in the introduction of Suboxone into emergency patient care. As of this April, Ottawa paramedics are able to administer Suboxone while responding to opioid-related 911 calls. This is a significant accomplishment and one that underlines Charlene's commitment to the changes that are so desperately needed. Charlene's contributions to Moms Stop the Harm in general and the board of directors in particular are tremendously appreciated. Charlene is knowledgeable, caring, and genuine, and we miss her expertise and compassion on the board. On a personal note, I had the pleasure of meeting Charlene in person around this time last year when a group of moms met at Parliament Hill, and I felt an instant connection. On behalf of the board of directors and the membership, I would like to thank Charlene for her contributions. We are holding her in our hearts and wishing her well. Thank you.
Thanks, Ruth. And next up, we have Arlene and Tammy.
Great. Well, I'm here to thank Arlene Lascobe for all she's done here in our province of Manitoba. She's one of our warrior mothers here. And she started advocating like almost a decade ago, like even prior to her involvement with Moms Stop the Harm after the loss of her son, Jesse, who's also pictured here on the slide. Her formal involvement with Moms Stop the Harm, well, joining the board happened in 2021. And over the years, I think when she first started, or what I remember, is like she's met with countless bereaved family members. I think that takes a toll on you over time, but over and over, they advocated for like pamphlets in hospitals to get phone numbers so people would have a support system, because we all know that there's kind of been a lack of supports for family members. And so that was part of the early advocacy efforts, and just meeting with people and bringing people together here in our province. She's also met consistently over the past decade with individuals from all levels of government, like from city to our provincial government to federal leaders, and keeps advocating for our loved ones that are still here. And I'd say over the years too, it's kind of shifted what we've been advocating, or Arlene has advocated for here in our province. Things like initially kind of just trying to get medically assisted detox beds and treatment beds here, kind of shifted, recognizing that the way to address some of what we see as preventable deaths is naloxone distribution in our province. We come from what has been a very socially conservative province, not a lot of investment in harm reduction over the past few years. And so that was one of the big pushes a few years ago, was just to get naloxone available here in our province, and also to address the shortages. Like for some reason, our province had a few times where we just didn't order enough naloxone. I mean, then more recently in the last few years, particularly with her time on the board here, is really advocating for safe supply, recognizing that that's the only way to prevent some of these deaths. And Arlene has also been responsible for launching like various campaigns here in our province, like either at a provincial level or as part of her role on the National Action Committee from Mom Stop the Harm. So things like having a purple ribbon campaign here in the months of August, painting purple chairs for distribution, Black Balloon Day. She also took a central role in creating with the National Action Committee the poppy seed campaign, where poppy seeds were emailed from all across Canada to members of Parliament to kind of represent safe supply. And also organizing several rallies and vigils at our legislative grounds, well, here in Winnipeg, specifically over the past several years. And she's also advocated to get drug-related bereavement day officially recognized here in our province. So that's an official day, the Sunday before Mother's Day every year. And like I said, it's been, well, in the past year, I'll say past year or so, she's been really shifting, like her focus from when she left the board and prior to that was really trying to get a change of government here. I don't want to go all political here, but we do come from a province who has never had a supervised consumption site, who hasn't made very many investments in harm reduction, and it took a long time to get like the actual number of people who have died in our province released. And that also didn't come through the government. That came through things like the advocacy of Arlene and others in our province. And if you'll notice, we have a way to go. If you notice on page 5 of our annual report, Manitoba still says NA, so not available. So our statistics are still not being reported to the Public Health Agency of Canada. So I would argue it's 42,000 plus Manitobans in those national numbers. And so more recently, I also wanted I'll say 2 more short things of some of the things Arlene's accomplished here in our city and province. Was really advocating for the establishment of a Gone Too Soon garden here in the city of Winnipeg. So a few years ago, I think in 2019, the city of Winnipeg gave us, like us as a community of advocates here, a garden to memorialize those people that we have lost to the toxic drug poisoning crisis. So if you're ever in Winnipeg, email me or go check it out in Stephen Juba Park. It's a few blocks away from the Human Rights Museum. And then more recently, she was the creative vision behind this artwork. So the artwork is hundreds of poppies. People have written names on some of the poppies, but these purple poppies to represent the people we have lost in our province and all across Canada. And that artwork, I'm happy to say, is going to be displayed in the Canadian Museum of Human Rights here in the summer, I think starting in early June and for the next 4 to 6 months. So again, if you're in Winnipeg, stop by. But it's really her creative genius behind the artwork that's going to be displayed there. And so I'd like to thank Arlene for all that she's done here in Winnipeg and in our province and as a member of the board. And we wish her all the best in her future advocacy, because I know she's going to keep on going. So thank you.
Great, thanks, Tammy. And next we have Angie Staines and Corey. Oh, and move my slide. There we go.
Yeah, I'm really grateful for the opportunity to say just a few words about Angie today. And I can see in the chat that Angie isn't here. And if you know Angie, you'll think that's funny because she works so much that she's probably actually doing outreach right now and helping to keep her community safe right now and working alongside her son B to help keep people in Edmonton's inner city core safe and loved and cared for. And that's the kind of person that Angie is. I got the opportunity to meet Angie well before she was a nurse and before she had started 4B harm reduction services. And at that time, she was a fierce and protective mother who was doing everything she could to keep her son safe. And she continues to be that person. Now she's a researcher. She's a nurse. She went back to school at the age of 43 and graduated in 2022 to become an LPN. She started a harm reduction service in Edmonton's inner city core called 4B Harm Reduction Services, and B is her son's name. And she actually works with her son B and has helped him grow now into an advocate and into a leader. And so we only had Angie for a really short time. But that's because she's doing so much incredible work elsewhere, and she will continue to represent the Mom Stop the Harm in many other ways. And we're grateful for the time that we had with Angie, and look forward to see what she does next.
Thanks, Corey. And next up, we have Doreen and Willie.
Sorry. So I won't spend too much time realizing that we don't always get to know the other people that are on our board super well. We are geographically dispersed, and a lot of us have had challenges during our terms on the board, which mean that, you know, sometimes we have to drop out or take a break for a while. So unfortunately, I didn't get to know Doreen super well, but I can tell you that this is one of those very strong, determined ladies that is going to continue doing great work in this area. Doreen did lose a son to these drug poisonings in February of 2021. So, you know, she has that mom wound that so many people who come to our organization have. And so she brought great administrative skills, great health and safety, great human resource skills to our board. We could always count on her to be the calm influence. This is emotional work. This is sometimes very hard to deal with each other because we're all hurting. So I really commend Doreen's professionalism to all of this, and we will miss her a great deal. I did ask her what comes next, and she did say she's continuing with facilitating her Healing Hearts group in Alberta, and she has a personal goal of riding her bike to Winnipeg, which I think is an excellent example of the determination that Doreen brings to her life and her approach to everything. So I thank her very much for her service, and I wish her well, and I know we'll see and hear from her again.
Thanks, Willie. Yeah, Doreen is definitely going to be missed. And next up, we have Annie's story and myself. And so I had the fortune of meeting Annie actually at a protest rally that we did for the 5th anniversary of the declaration of a public health emergency here. It was quite a large rally that we held in downtown Vancouver. Annie showed up with her signs, her cross, and it was the first time I'd ever met her. I didn't actually know that she was on the board at the time. And I just found her to be an amazing woman. It was so strong and passionate. She was just open to learning, and she just wanted to absorb more and more information and education, because she really felt that if Mom Stop the Harm had been available, or a group like us, prior to her losing her son Alex at the age of 29, she would have been just so much better off and ahead of the game. So Annie was a certified accountant, and so she joined the board as treasurer and held that role until mid 2023. Since that time, when she had to step back, because, like, you know, Willie had just said, we are often overcome with our own personal lives that kind of have to step in and step back. So Annie needed to take a break. She's the sole caregiver for her now, I think she's 10-year-old granddaughter. And so she's really had to focus on wellness and health for herself and for her granddaughter. So she did resign and is moved to a smaller community on the BC Sunshine Coast, where she is still continuing at a grassroots level, advocacy, educating the community in and around her, and fighting. She's an online warrior. So Annie's just constantly out there on social media and just nonstop, just trying to educate general public, etc. At the moment, so she is really looking to support her granddaughter, who is just completely devastated by the loss of her father. And while at the same time is really trying to get back to basics, get back to nature, kind of that, feet in the grass type thing, and promote healing for herself and her daughter. She's been growing, kind of rediscovered a love of gardening, and being outdoors. Her place is literally right on the Pacific Ocean, so she absolutely loves the time she spends with that. She's been growing medicinal herbs and planting organic, and really looking into organic gardening as a way for her pathway to wellness. Annie is an amazing woman. She's taken a lot on. One of so many grandparents raising grandchildren in this crisis. And I commend the work that she's doing. And I know it's been a fight. So I will miss Annie. I'm still in contact with her. She will miss her presence on the board. And I just wish her well and support with anything that she needs in the future. And next up, we have Leslie McBain and Marie. And then after Leslie, we have Willie. She has a few words she wants to say as well.
Hi, everyone. So Marie Adjeritas, what a warrior, what a fierce and articulate and powerful person. We met in 2016. She was at our very first Mom Stop the Harm meeting in the interior. Can't quite remember the place. Somebody on this meeting will remember the name of the town. Marie had lost her beautiful son, Kelly, to fentanyl, and she was ready to speak out soon after within her grief. And she was angry and she was really strong. Marie was one of, I already said that. Okay, sorry. She's been a director. She was instrumental in setting, this is one of the most amazing things she did in my eyes. Instrumental in getting the Good Samaritan Act passed federally, the law that protects those who may be present or calling in an overdose. She went to Ottawa. She met with many politicians and she spoke beautifully. And yes, it was passed and is still in effect. She worked with Prairie Harm Reduction in Saskatchewan, and she speaks forcefully and well on media. She's been a really good speaker. She is fierce and committed to the fight to save people who use drugs and the families of people who have lost someone. That's what I had written. I'm going to always be in contact with Marie. She's a good friend. She speaks truth. She has great integrity. I'm going to miss her on the board. I have already missed her on the board, but I know she's going to continue to. She is a caregiver of the first degree, and that's what she's doing these days, is caregiving her family. But actually today, as we speak, she's in Greece having some well-earned time off. So I hate to say goodbye to Marie on this platform, but there you have it. Thanks, Marie. Thanks for everything. Thank you.
Thanks, Leslie.
And I'm just going to tag on at the end. Marie and I both in Saskatchewan. She is the one who brought me to Mom Stop the Harm onto the board. I just wanted to acknowledge, I think Petra also talked about this earlier, the personal. We're here, we're on boards, we go to group meetings, we advocate. But I think sometimes that personal stuff is what really saves people. When I met Marie, oof, boy, things were bad. And I'm not really sure if I'd be here if she hadn't been that person to step up and say, it's not what you think it is. And, you know, all of the stigma attached that you feel so heavily when your kids are in a lot of trouble. She helped me step back from that. And so I just want to acknowledge her humanity and thank her very much because I'm here to see my grandson. So thank you, Marie.
Thanks, Willie. Marie will be missed. She's been an integral part of this organization from the beginning. And I just wish her well. And I, you know, that she finds peace, and wish we were all able to in Greece with her actually at the moment. Would be awesome. So that kind of brings to the end of this, say, part one of the AGM, and we're really going to just have to move into the business aspect of the agenda. So next we have kind of. So oh, I'm missing some motions. Oh, well, we'll just leave it at that for now. So as part of I'm not sure if it was included in what went out to everybody with the annual report. Did we include the minutes from last AGM in that?
They should have been. They've also been shared in the chat at the beginning of the meeting as well. And they were emailed out to everybody.
Awesome, thank you. So has everybody had a chance to review the minutes from last AGM? And do we need to make any changes, or no, we're okay with that? So would someone like to make a motion to approve the minutes? Corey motions, anyone second? Did we get a seconder? Oh, okay. And voting members. So this is for the voting members, those who have paid the membership fee to do that. So if you could please mark your vote on the poll that's on your screen.
Votes are still coming in. We have they're just trickling in.
Just an FYI, that popped up a little quick.
Sorry.
Like the voting thing just made it hard to.
So it looks like everyone has completed voting, and yes, yeah, that motion is in favor.
In favor? Motion pass. Okay, and okay, does this one disappear? Oh, do I have to make it disappear on my end?
You'll have to make it disappear on your side. Sorry.
Okay. So next we have up is the approval of the agenda that we're working off of today. There was a couple of changes to the agenda, mostly in wording. Other than that, everything else was, nothing else was changed. Does someone want to make a motion? The changes that I put on there is one of that in regards to our financials, we're actually doing audit. We're have the audited financials, not the unaudited. And the other change was just a speaker for Doreen. So somebody like to make a motion? Tammy and Corey seconds. So any changes or additions that we need to the agenda from anyone else? We're good. Okay, and then can we pop the poll up, please? One thing I will say, Tyler, is with the poll being a co-host, I don't have the option to vote.
Okay.
That's okay.
With you being chair, if it comes down to a vote, if it comes down to a tie, then we'll make sure we capture your vote. So it looks like the voting is completed. And yes, that motion is supported.
That one's been passed. Okay. And then next up is the review and approval of the 2022 to 2023 audited financials. At last AGM, our financials were unaudited that we presented due to the change. So in the 2022 to 2023 year, we extended our fiscal year to 15 months so that our year end was in line with the funder. So our year end last year ended at 2023, March 31st. And so we do have those financials that need to be looked at and approved. And if I
Tracy, you're all of a sudden muted.
That's so weird. I don't know what's going on here with that. Sorry, I'm just trying to pop that screen up there to get the right financials showing. Okay, so let's move that over to here. Okay, these are our audited 2022 to 2023 financials, year ending March 31st. We did do a full audit as required for our charitable status. And this is just all the notes that kind of go with that from Baker Tilly, who were our auditors.
I'm sorry, Tracy, it's not showing, it's not showing the correct slide. It's still stuck on the Mom Stop the Harm Part 2 slide that
Really?
you're, yeah, it's maybe frozen or something.
You might have to unshare and then reshare.
Yeah, look at that. Oh. Sorry, I'm just having I have way too many windows open. I think it's the problem here.
And when screen sharing, you always feel pressure too. So please don't feel the pressure. We're just, yeah, it's all friends.
Sorry, now you're seeing all mine. Let's go in here.
Actually, if you haven't seen anything, you're still screen sharing
Still
just
on
that
that
one
one?
slide.
Okay.
So you're gonna want to stop screen sharing and then bring it up with the one you'd like.
Do that. Stop share. There we go. Sorry, everyone. Hey, when I was practicing this earlier, it all was working. Yeah, it's just not going to let me put that. Now screen share. There we go. So can you see them?
Yes, it's now saying the financial statements and can see your page scrolling.
Sorry about that, everyone. Okay, so what I was saying, these are financial statements from March 31st, 2023. It's a 15-month period on these statements. These are the notes that come with from Baker Tilly, who were our auditors. I'm just going to keep scrolling down until we get to them. So basically, we were pretty close. We did on both the year before and this year. We had a little bit extra revenue that we ended up having to utilize at the end of the year. There's really not a lot to say about these ones, but we do have them. So they were included with the financial report or the annual report that went out. And if anybody didn't get a copy and wants to have a copy, you can just email us, or if you have any questions in regards to the financial statements, it's probably best to discuss it by email. So if you just want to send one, you can send it to treasurer@momstoptheharm.com, and we can answer any questions that you have in regards to them. So after all that, Are we? I can't even get my Zoom back now. Stop share. There we go. Okay, so do we have a motion to approve the audited 2022 till March 31st, 2023 financial statements? Someone make a motion? Or does anybody have any questions in regards to them that I could answer quickly?
I'll move.
Okay, Corey, was that a move or a question?
A move or a second. I can second Daryl.
So Dorothy, then Corey.
Daryl Myers?
Daryl, okay. Oh, you have a question or you're seconding?
Oh, I initially moved it, but it all got.
Okay, sorry. I'm only seeing like 4 people on my screen at one time right now, so, and it doesn't want to go to full screen. Sorry about that, Daryl. Okay. Do you want to put the poll up?
Hey, Tracy, while you wait for the votes to come in, I'll just point out that there was a question from Heather Balfour in the chat about when will the April 1st, 2023 to March 31st, 2024 financial statements be available?
Okay, at the moment, we do have the rough draft of those that Tara, our bookkeeper, has provided to us. There's a few more things, additions or changes that we need to make to those before they go to the auditors. We have until July to get them completed and audited. So once those are done, we can make those available.
Okay. And everyone has voted, and that's a full 100% support. Yes.
Yes. Okay, perfect. Thank you. And next up, we have Tyler with an update on the Stronger Together program.
Well, just being in the essence of time, and we respect everybody to be able to have at least part of their weekend. You'll see in the annual report, we have had a lot of progress and growth happening. All over across Canada. We have, I think it's 44 healing heart groups across Canada, as well as 44 holding hope groups across Canada, which is just total irony on the fact that it's the same number. It's not that we have 44 communities with both groups. It's just a random collection of how we've made connection within our communities and making it happen. Of course, we're always looking for facilitators. We're always looking for co-facilitators as well. It's very important to have that, a team to be able to lead a group, because we know that it can be a very heavy subject. And when we're having our own journey, it can be that much more at times when we're just, needing to be able to tag out for that bit. Anyways, that is something. So if you are interested in, taking a stab at learning more, you do attain training. So we don't just like throw you in there. We train you up. We make sure that you're good to go. You have supports along the way in the journey of being a facilitator. And so I definitely put that, a strong suggestion or recommendation for everyone. If you are remotely interested, contact us and let us know. We do have our 2 websites in addition to our main website of momstoptheharm.com. We also have the healingheartscanada.org and holdinghopecanada.org. So please definitely check them out. You can link through, and I know they're also shared in the annual report. So I'll leave it at that for the moment, and we'll keep going.
Thanks, Tyler. Next on the agenda. So can you see it on my screen?
Yes, you're good.
Yes. Okay. So with Mom Stop the Harm, as per our bylaws, directors are nominated or elected for 2-year terms, and with an option to have a second 2-year term after that. So once, if you've been on the board for 4 years, you actually have to step back for a minimum of 1 year before you can stand for election again. So at the end of this year, we have 3 directors, including myself, Jerry Calicum, and Tammy Telliu, are both standing for election for our second term. and we are running as a slate. So Jeremy sent his regrets today to be able to come to the AGM. He's has a lot going on in his world at the moment and was going to be traveling this morning, so he wasn't able to attend. And so is there any changes or questions in regards to this? Corey's like, let's get this done. I'm motioned to accept these. So the motion to accept the returning slate of directors. Corey makes the motion. Anybody second?
Dorothy has raised her hand to second.
Dorothy to second. Perfect. Thank you. And
the poll has been launched. So they're still trickling in. Yeah, at this moment in time, it's 100% in favor.
100% in favor. Perfect. Wonderful. Thank you, everyone. And then next up, we have two new directors that have been nominated and are standing for election. And we're going to give each one of the nominees a few minutes to talk about themselves. And we will start with AR.
Thank you. So hi everyone. My name's Anne Rochelle Boulanger. You can call me Anne Rochelle or AR, either is fine. I'm a policy analyst at the HIV Legal Network, which is an advocacy organization based in Toronto. We do a lot of harm reduction work, and a lot of the projects I've been working on since joining the organization have really focused on the issues that you guys are tackling yourselves. So we're looking at harm reduction and healthcare in prisons, harm reduction and healthcare through shelters. In addition to the work that I'm doing at the HIV Legal Network, I'm also an immigration and refugee lawyer, so working one-on-one with folks who are trying to get refugee status or immigration status in Canada. And I'm just very honored to have this opportunity to work with you folks. I've been following your work for a few years, and I'm really moved by all the good that you have been doing and that you continue to do across the country. So thank you.
Wonderful. Thanks, AR. Does anybody have any questions for AR prior to the vote? No? We're excited to have you and that you want to join us. And so next up, before we go to the vote, actually, we will jump over to Rebecca Penn, another nominee, and she can share a little bit about herself.
Hi, everybody. So I'm a first-generation Canadian settler, the daughter of British immigrants, and I grew up in a family that was really very committed to social justice, and that really has shaped my personal and professional journeys through life. I've always sought out opportunities to work with and learn from people who have experienced marginalization and stigmatization and criminalization. This has brought me into working in different sectors. I've worked in working in the shelter sector, sexual health, mental health, criminal justice. I've also worked with different roles. I've been a frontline worker. I've worked in policy, in academia and research. And currently I'm the project manager for the National Safer Supply Community of Practice. I work for London Intercommunity Health Centre. That work is really about knowledge exchange and capacity building. I currently live in what is known as I currently live in what's known as Nova Scotia, the traditional and ongoing territory of Mi'kmaq people. I've also been a longtime fan of Mom Stop the Harm. I've always been really in awe of the courage and creativity and compassion and action that I see Mom Stop the Harm members doing, and the willingness to really speak out and reach across to support, educate, advocate, all of those really key things. And so, yeah, I'm really excited at the idea of joining the board. It's been incredible to watch the organization grow. I'm really excited about the future and the plans for the future that I see. And I do think, as we've heard today, a couple of people mentioned that we're in for a rough ride over the next few years. I've got the time and energy and hopefully some great skills that I can contribute to keep pushing this work forward with you all. And yeah, I'd be really honored if you'd have me join the board. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thanks, Rebecca. And so the two things. So we came to AR and Rebecca. We did an extensive nomination and interview process and recruitment committee, and we extended invitations to the two of them. We also have a couple more positions still available, which we did not receive applications for. One, we are in need of a treasurer. So just keep that in mind. Anybody that knows somebody who would be interested and understands and would follow the mandate and is in line philosophically with Mom Stop the Harm, but has that financial experience, would be great to put a nomination form in. We can, as per our bylaws, accept directors even after the AGM, though we would prefer to do this process through the AGM. And so does somebody want to make a motion for AR?
I will.
You will? Troilana? Oh, we got both Corey and Leslie. We have lots of people making the motion to have Anna Rochelle join the board of directors for Mom Stop the Harm. And do we have a second? We have a couple of seconds. So motion passed. Welcome, AR. Really excited to have you. And we have a motion for Rebecca. Someone put forth a motion. Corey, you can't put forth every motion. Okay, Dorothy, and we have a second. And Tammy, perfect. Thank you both. And same to you, Rebecca. I'm very excited to have you join us. Again, there was an addition to the agenda that I did miss, and I meant to have it on there. And it's just for a motion to appoint auditors for our 2024 financials. So it's somebody, I'll make the motion for that. We motion to look at finding auditors for our 2024 financials. We are not 100% if we're going to continue with Baker Tilly, though we definitely reserve the option to do that. Do we have a second on that motion? Tammy? And we haven't voted on any of these motions. We need to vote. Let's go back. Let's vote on this one, then we'll go back to the other two and vote on those. I'm sorry. It's getting to the end.
This one was missed in the polls, so we'll have everybody just go into their emotions on the bottom of the screen, and then they can raise their hands that way if we could do.
Wonderful, thank you.
Did you maybe want to stop screen sharing just so we can see everyone, if that's all right?
Sorry, yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah, I could stop screen sharing if I could find it and stop. There we go. Sorry about that.
So it looks like you have.
I worry this change in structure is maybe leaving a few people who haven't, maybe aren't familiar with the raise hand feature. Like, could we also just say like any abstentions or like any?
Yeah. Does anybody abstain? You can just let us know. I'm voting. Any nays? Looks like you're talking now. Everybody agrees. Okay. Are we good, Tyler?
Yes, we are good.
Okay. Sorry about that, everyone. I'm notoriously bad for not sticking with the agenda. And then let's go back to AR. And let's vote on AR joining the board, please.
Okay, so there's just a couple more just trickling in.
Leslie has her hand up there too. Okay, very good.
Okay, so it looks like it's 100% yes in favor.
Okay. Sorry about that. I was so excited to have them join that I kind of missed the important part.
That's okay. I was going to catch you up again.
Yeah. And Rebecca, please, the poll.
And you're in favor as well.
And in favor as well. Perfect. Thank you. Okay, I think there's business is pretty much done. We're almost on time, only a few minutes over. I just have a few closing remarks I'd like to make, and if anybody else has any, that would be great. This past year has been really pivotal for our organization, and with unprecedented membership enrollments, but little positive change on the political front. We're seeing the environment we work in is becoming increasingly hostile. And I think that's something that Dr. Sereda pointed to, as well as a few people. We're really facing a lot of public backlash, the big C conservatives, small C conservatives, as well as backlash through media, which is making it really kind of difficult to do the work. Politicians and media are weaponizing the work that we're doing and the people that we love, and they're profiting from the moral panic they create with that. As an organization, we remain focused on our mission of advocating to end substance use related harms, stigma, and death. We are in the process of creating and implementing a proactive strategy to advance our cause and our messaging. We will continue to follow with evidence our advocacy efforts and further commit to working alongside and being informed by people who use drugs in our policies and actions. Moving into a new year, we at the board level are committed to the main pillars of our organization, which are support, education, and advocacy. Together, we are strong and we're growing in numbers. We are partnering with allied organizations, and our voices are loud. We are extremely passionate. We are extremely committed and resilient. We will continue the work that we're doing. And I just want to really put a huge shout out to our members and our key volunteers, our advocates, staff, and directors. The work everyone is doing is amazing. And without the solidarity that we have, it's awe-inspiring at times. And like so many have said, we are getting known across the country. Our message, our voices are being heard. They're not being actioned necessarily, but they are being heard. And we will just continue to get louder, and we will continue to fight for those that we love and in memory of those that we've lost. And for everybody else's kids out there, they may not get it. The naysayers, they don't understand that we are fighting for their children at the same time and their loved ones. Right. So thank you all for joining us today. I think that today went pretty well. Like I said, only 15 minutes over. That's pretty good for me, actually, and facilitating anything. Does anybody have any questions or before we adjourn or statements they want to make? Corey and Leslie are probably looking forward to getting back to their conference.
Oh, Leslie wants to talk for a second.
I want to thank you, Tracy, for being who you are and for your strength. And we love you and we have your back always. And the only thing we're really waiting for here is to go have lunch. But we love you all, and thanks so much, everybody, for as you just said, everything we do.
Love you too, guys.
Okay.
Hey. Well, I will make this motion. I am motion to adjourn this meeting. We got everybody put their hand up. Everyone can second that one. Thank you all for coming, and we will talk to you all soon.